inside the winter of the superflu. This year's flu season in the United States is exploding, and it isn't happening by accident. A newly evolved H3N2 strain is ripping through communities, overwhelming hospitals, and outsmarting some of the immunity we thought we could count on. By early January, the US had already seen an estimated 15 million flu illnesses, 180,000 hospitalizations, and 7,400 deaths. And the season isn't over yet. Meet the shapeshifter, H3N2, subclade K. At the center of this storm is influenza A, and a shapeshifting offshoot called H3N2 subclade K. Globally, this one variant is behind roughly 80% of flu infections, making it the dominant strain on the planet right now. In US labs, most of the flu samples being tested are influenza A, and the surge in hospitalizations is being primarily fueled by this single H3N2 lineage. Think of the classic H3N2 virus as an old enemy, familiar, dangerous, but predictable. Now imagine it quietly changing its disguise. That's subclade K. On its surface, the virus is covered in tiny spikes called hemagglutinin, or HA, the structures your immune system is trained to recognize and attack. Subclade K has quietly rewired those spikes, swapping out key building blocks and reshaping the very spots where antibodies usually lock on. To your immune system, it still looks like H3N2, just different enough to slip through. Antibodies forged by past infections or older vaccines now grab on more weakly, or miss entirely. That delay gives the virus a head start. It invades cells, multiplies, and spreads before your defenses fully wake up. You can see that in the numbers. In just one late December week, flu hospitalizations jumped to over 19,000, about 10,000 more than the week before. How this season compares. To understand how intense this is, look at the trend lines. By week 53, the US had a cumulative flu hospitalization rate of about 40.6 people per 100,000, the second highest at this point in the season since at least 2010 to 11. Last season, 2024 to 25, finished with roughly 127 hospitalizations per 100,000, the highest in more than a decade, and this year is already tracking close behind that pace. In other words, compared with many pre-pandemic seasons, we've moved from average flu year territory into back-to-back worse than normal winters. The supporting cast of viruses. H3N2 subclade K is the headline, but it isn't acting alone. H1N1, the descendant of the 2009 pandemic strain, is circulating in the background and adding to the pressure on clinics and ERs. Influenza B, mostly from the B Victoria lineage, is on the stage too, a smaller player in a season dominated by H3N2's explosive rise. The vaccine, outmatched or holding the line. This year's flu vaccines were designed as a shield against three main threats: an H1N1 strain, an H3N2 strain, and a B Victoria strain. But as the vaccines were being prepared, subclade K kept mutating, drifting further from the H3N2 strain they were built to target. That mismatch helps explain why so many people are getting infected even after being vaccinated. But the shield is bent, not broken. Protection against severe disease and hospitalization remains, which is crucial when tens of thousands of people are landing in hospitals in a matter of weeks, what this winter really means. So here's the reality. This winter is being shaped by a fast-moving, partially immune-evading H3N2 strain, with H1N1 and influenza B helping to keep the pressure on. Experts are already calling this a worse-than-average season, coming on the heels of what was already one of the most severe flu years in more than a decade. For kids, older adults, pregnant people, and anyone with chronic heart or lung disease, this isn't just another flu season. It's a stress test of how seriously we take prevention. Your choices matter. Getting vaccinated, staying home when you're sick, masking in packed indoor spaces, and basic hand hygiene can be the difference between a bad season and a brutal one. We're living through the winter of the super flu headline, but it's not unstoppable. Talk to your doctor, protect the vulnerable people in your life, And don't give this virus more chances than it already has.